69. Probably spent. 70. Probably spent. 71. Probably spent. 72. Spent. Penitentiaries are now provided for by the Corrections and Conditional Release Act, SC 1992, C-20. 73. Spent. See pages 11 and 12 of the Public Accounts, 1902-1903. 74. Probably spent. 2 orders were made under this section on January 24, 1868. 75. Repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act, 1893, 56-57 Victoria, C-14, UK. The section read as follows: 145. Inasmuch as the provinces of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick have joined in a declaration that the construction of the Intercolonial Railway is essential to the consolidation of the Union of British North America, and to the assent thereto of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and have consequently agreed that provision should be made for its immediate construction by the Government of Canada, therefore, in order to give effect to that agreement, it shall be the duty of the Government and Parliament of Canada to provide for the commencement, within 6 months after the union, of a railway connecting the River St. Lawrence with the city of Halifax in Nova Scotia, and for the construction thereof without intermission, and the completion thereof with all practicable speed. 76. All territories mentioned in Section 146 are now part of Canada. See and note 6 to Section 5 above. 77. Spent. See and notes 11, 12, 15, 16, and 17 to Sections 21, 22, 26, 27, and 28 above. 78. Spent. See Representation Act, RSO 1990, CR.26. 79. As enacted by Section 51 of the Constitution Act, 1982, 80. French version enacted as Schedule A to the Canada Act 1982, 1982, C11, UK. 81. Enacted as Schedule B to the Canada Act 1982, 1982, C11, UK, which came into force on April 17, 1982. 82. See Section 50 and Endnotes 40 and 42 to Sections 85 and 88 of the Constitution Act 1867. 83. Replaces part of Class 1 of Section 91 of the Constitution Act 1867, which was repealed as set out in Subitem 1, 3 of the Schedule to the Constitution Act 1982. 84. See Endnotes 10, 41, and 42 to Sections 20, 86, and 88 of the Constitution Act 1867. 85. Subsection 32, 2, provides that Section 15 shall not have effect until 3 years after Section 32 comes into force. Section 32 came into force on April 17, 1982, therefore, Section 15 had effect on April 17, 1985. 86. Section 16.1 was added by the Constitution Amendment, 1993, New Brunswick, CC/93-54. 87. See Section 133 of the Constitution Act 1867 and Endnote 67. 88. Bid. 89. Bid. 90. Bid. 91. Bid. 92. Bid. 93. See, for example, Section 133 of the Constitution Act 1867 and the reference to the Manitoba Act 1870 in Endnote 67 to that section. 94. Paragraph 23, 1a, is not in force in respect of Quebec. See Section 59 of the Constitution Act 1982, 95. Paragraph 25b was repealed and re-enacted by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102. Paragraph 25b, originally read as follows: b. Any rights or freedoms that may be acquired by the Aboriginal peoples of Canada by way of land claims settlement. 96. See Section 93 of the Constitution Act 1867 and Endnote 50. 97. Subsections 35, 3, and 4 were added by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102. 98. Section 35.1 was added by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102. 99. See Endnotes 58, and 59 to Sections 114 and 118 of the Constitution Act, 1867, 100, Section 54 of the Constitution Act, 1982 provided for the repeal of Part 4, Section 37, 1 year after Part 7 came into force. Part 7 came into force on April 17, 1982, thereby repealing Part 4 on April 17, 1983. Section 37 read as follows: 37.1. A constitutional conference composed of the Prime Minister of Canada and the First Ministers of the provinces shall be convened by the Prime Minister of Canada within 1 year after this part comes into force. 2. The conference convened under subsection 1 shall have included in its agenda an item respecting constitutional matters that directly affect the Aboriginal peoples of Canada, including the identification and definition of the rights of those peoples to be included in the Constitution of Canada, and the Prime Minister of Canada shall invite representatives of those peoples to participate in the discussions on that item. 3. The Prime Minister of Canada shall invite elected representatives of the governments of the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories to participate in the discussions on any item on the agenda of the conference convened under subsection 1 that, in the opinion of the Prime Minister, directly affects the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories. 101. Part 4.1, Section 37.1, which was added by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102, was repealed on April 18, 1987, by Section 54.1 of the Constitution Act, 1982. Section 37.1 read as follows: 37.1.1. In addition to the conference convened in March 1983, at least 2 constitutional conferences composed of the Prime Minister of Canada and the First Ministers of the provinces shall be convened by the Prime Minister of Canada, the first within 3 years after April 17, 1982, and the second within 5 years after that date. 2. Each conference convened under subsection 1 shall have included in its agenda constitutional matters that directly affect the Aboriginal peoples of Canada, and the Prime Minister of Canada shall invite representatives of those peoples to participate in the discussions on those matters. 3. The Prime Minister of Canada shall invite elected representatives of the governments of the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories to participate in the discussions on any item on the agenda of a conference convened under subsection 1 that, in the opinion of the Prime Minister, directly affects the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories. 4. Nothing in this section shall be construed so as to derogate from subsection 35(1). 102. Prior to the enactment of Part 5, certain provisions of the Constitution of Canada and the provincial constitutions could be amended pursuant to the Constitution Act, 1867. See Endnotes 44 and 48 to Section 91, Class 1 and Section 92, Class 1 of that Act, respectively. Other amendments to the Constitution could only be made by enactment of the Parliament of the United Kingdom. 103. A First Minister's meeting was held June 20 to 21, 1996. 104. The text of this amendment is set out in the Constitution Act, 1867, as Section 92A. 105. The text of this amendment is set out in the Constitution Act, 1867, as the 6th Schedule. 106. Part 7 came into force on April 17, 1982, CC/82-97. 107. Section 54.1, which was added by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102, provided for the repeal of Part 4.1 and Section 54.1 on April 18, 1987. Section 54.1 read as follows: 54.1 Part 4.1 and this section are repealed on April 18, 1987. 108. The French Constitutional Drafting Committee was established in 1984, with a mandate to assist the Minister of Justice in that task. The committee's final report was tabled in Parliament in December 1990. 109. The Act, with the exception of paragraph 23, 1a, in respect of Quebec, came into force on April 17, 1982, by proclamation issued by the Queen, CC/82-97. 110. No proclamation has been issued under Section 59. 111. Section 61 was added by the Constitution Amendment Proclamation, 1983, CC/84-102. See also Section 3 of the Constitution Act, 1985, Representation, SC 1986, C8, Part 1, and the Constitution Amendment, 1987, Newfoundland Act, CC/88-11.